The Fairy's Promise. In the moonlit court, where twilight was eternal and laughter rang like silver chimes, the Fae lived, untouched by time's cruel hand. Beneath the ancient boughs, where fireflies painted the air with light and rivers hummed in silk-soft voices, they danced in endless joy, marred only by whispers of one forbidden sin. Loving a mortal, such folly had not been committed in 1,000 years. Not since the last fairy, who gave her heart to a creature of flesh, and time was erased from memory, her name stripped from the stars. Yet now, the wind carried hushed voices through the moonlit glades. Wings quivered, leaves rustled, and scandal crackled like lightning in the hush of the court. "Have you heard?" murmured a water nymph, her voice as light as rippling streams. "Ilara, fairest of the moonlit court, has given her heart to a human." "No, it can't be," scoffed a sprite, her delicate wings shivering. "Surely no child of the court would stoop so low." "Oh, but she has," whispered a willowy dryad, her words rustling like wind through hollowed trees. "I've seen her, slipping into the mortal woods, cloaking her magic in secrecy. And, gods above, she lets him touch her." Gasps flitted like startled birds. What could she possibly want with a man as fragile as autumn's last leaf? Mused a fire fae, her ember eyes flickering with disdain. A creature that withers, that vanishes with time? "She's disgraced us all." "Perhaps," murmured a shadow fae, his voice slinking like smoke, "she enjoys being worshipped. It's said mortals fall to their knees before beauty such as ours." "No," another fae interjected, sorrow lacing her words. "I've seen them together beneath the willow's shade. He doesn't look at her as if enchanted. He looks at her as an equal. He loves her." "Then she's lost," sighed the nymph, a touch of sadness in her gaze. "The council will never allow it." And so, the whispers snaked through the grand halls of moonstone and silver, coiling into the ears of the fairy council, the ancient keepers of law. The high bells tolled, summoning all to bear witness as Ilara, daughter of the court, was called to stand in judgment. She entered the grand chamber, thick with power, where the elders sat upon their thrones of woven starlight, their faces carved with the weight of centuries. The assembled fae watched in silence, their gazes sharp, their wings unfurled like banners of righteousness. "Ilara of the moonlit court," intoned the high elder, his voice rumbling like thunder across the hills. "You stand accused of betraying your kind, of breaking our most sacred law. You have given your love to a mortal. Do you deny it?" Ilara lifted her chin, her voice steady as a river's flow. "I do not deny it." A murmur rippled through the gathered fae. Some turned their faces away, ashamed. Others glared, their lips curling in disgust. "Then you know the price of such betrayal," the elder said gravely. "If you will not renounce him, then you are no longer one of us. Your wings will be taken. Your magic will be stripped. You shall walk the earth as a mere mortal, suffering as they suffer, perishing as they perish." A hush fell, still as death. Ilara's breath hitched, but she did not tremble. She had known this moment would come. And so, as the elders raised their hands, as golden light unraveled from her like gossamer thread upon the wind, she stood her ground. Pain like fire tore through her. She collapsed to her knees as her wings withered, as her magic bled away. The fae, her kin, those who had once danced with her beneath the stars, turned their backs and spoke her name no more. The mortal world was cruel beneath her bare feet. She stumbled through the darkened woods, her body strange and burdensome. Gone was the effortless grace of the fae, the lightness of one untouched by time. The earth was cold, the wind sharp, and for the first time in all her years, hunger gnawed at her belly. But when she fell, Cashin was there. "Ilara," he cried, catching her as she collapsed. His hands were warm, where once she had known only the cool detachment of her kind. "What have they done to you?" "They've taken everything," she whispered, her voice raw with sorrow. "My wings, my magic, my home." His jaw tightened, his hands wrapping around hers. "Then let me be your home." She wept then, not for what she had lost, but for what she had found. Yet, without magic, she was prey. The dark creatures that once feared her power now prowled the shadows, eager to devour what remained of her. One night, as the wind howled its mournful tune, a shadow wraith came for her, its hollow eyes gleaming with hunger. Cashin, though merely a man, raised his sword to defend her, but his strength was nothing against such a beast. Alara knew then she had to reclaim what was lost or die. She journeyed deep into the forbidden woods, where magic lay coiled in slumber, seeking the heart of the veil, the one relic that could restore what had been stolen. But the ancient spirits, the keepers of fate, demanded a price. Magic is not given. It is taken, they whispered. To reclaim what was lost, a life must be offered. Alara's breath caught. Her heart pounded as she turned to Cashin, already knowing what he would say before the words left his lips. Take mine, Cashin said, without hesitation. Tears welled in her eyes.
No.
I won't lose you, and I won't watch you suffer, he murmured, pressing his brow to hers. But Alara was no helpless maiden. She would not choose between love and fate. With trembling hands, she took Cashin's dagger, not to strike him, but to offer her own immortality to the land. The blade bit her flesh, and her blood, once rich with eternity, seeped into the soil. The air trembled, the very trees groaned, and the heart of the veil answered her sacrifice. Power surged through her, her wings unfurling once more, not as they once were, but wilder, untamed. She was no longer merely Fae. She was something new, a bridge between two worlds, bound by love and magic. Cashin stood beside her, whole, breathing, watching her with awe. And so, in whispered tongues and flickering candlelight, the world remembered the fairy who loved a man, who defied the heavens, and who won. Moral of the story: true love weaves through the threads of fate, defying even the greatest odds. Yet, every choice carries a cost, and true strength is not measured by power alone, but by the courage to sacrifice for those we hold dear. Part 2 coming soon.